Naledi wakes up every morning in her small home in Kamalu Township, enjoying the calm moments that belong only to her. She likes cooking her own breakfast, choosing her own routine, and walking through the busy streets without anyone questioning her choices. People in town greet her with warm smiles because she is kind to everyone, but she never lets anyone get too close. She believes peace comes from living life on her own terms. Her Aunt Maweza does not like this. Every time Naledi visits, Maweza looks at her with worried eyes and speaks in a sharp voice that makes Naledi feel small. Maweza repeats the same thing again and again, telling her that living alone will only bring sadness. She compares Naledi to a tree losing its roots, saying she needs someone beside her to be complete. Naledi tries to ignore those words, but they follow her everywhere she goes. One afternoon, after another long lecture, Naledi walks home feeling heavy. She wants to live freely, yet her aunt's comments echo in her mind, making her wonder if she is making a mistake. The city moves around her, children laughing, vendors bargaining, music playing from open windows, but she feels the pressure more than the joy. She remembers all the things she has achieved on her own, yet her aunt's doubts begin to shake her confidence. As she sits outside her home watching the sunset, Naledi thinks about what happiness truly means. She knows she is not lonely, she simply enjoys choosing her own path. But Maweza's words make her question whether people will judge her forever. She wants respect, not pity. She wants to be seen as strong, not incomplete. That night, she decides she will not let anyone define her life for her. She takes a deep breath and promises herself she will hold on to her independence with pride. She will not allow old beliefs or loud opinions to control her spirit. Naledi knows her journey may be different from others, but that does not make it wrong. And for the first time in a long while, she feels a spark inside her. Something bold, something bright, something ready to change everything. During a family gathering, Maweza raises her voice loud enough for everyone to hear, turning her sharp comments into entertainment. Relatives laugh awkwardly as she points at Naledi and makes jokes about her living alone. She says things that cut deeper than anyone realizes, acting as if Naledi's life is something to mock. Naledi stands there with a gentle smile, pretending the words do not bother her, even though each one feels like a slap. She looks around the room and notices how some people avoid meeting her eyes, embarrassed for her but too afraid to speak up. Inside, she feels a storm growing. She has listened to these remarks for years, always keeping the peace, always swallowing her frustration. But this time, something changes. She can feel her patience cracking. She feels tired of pretending, tired of carrying shame that does not belong to her. She knows she has worked hard, lived honestly, and built her life with courage. Yet her aunt's comments continue to chase her like shadows. She walks away from the center of the room, choosing silence over conflict, but her heart races with new strength. She realizes she has reached her limit. She will no longer allow anyone to make her feel small, especially not because of her choices. She wants to live without guilt, without whispers behind her back, without people treating her life like a problem that needs fixing. Standing near the doorway, she watches her family laughing and talking as if nothing happened. For the first time, she sees clearly how much she has allowed their opinions to shape her feelings. She tells herself this moment will be her turning point. She will not carry this weight anymore. She will not let old expectations decide her future. She takes a slow breath and feels a quiet power settling inside her. She knows she cannot change how others think, but she can change how she responds. She can choose confidence. She can choose peace. She can choose herself. As the evening ends, Naledi leaves the gathering with her head high, no longer shaken. She feels lighter, stronger, and more aware of her own value. She steps into the cool night air knowing one truth: her life belongs to her, and no one will control her worth ever again. While volunteering at Nuru Children's Center, Naledi notices a small boy sitting alone in the corner, holding a tiny handmade boat close to his chest. His name is Tando, only 5 years old, with big eyes that follow every move she makes. He does not join the other children when they play or laugh. He simply sits quietly, almost hiding behind the little boat as if it protects him. Naledi feels something pull her toward him, a gentle curiosity she cannot ignore. She walks slowly to his side, careful not to scare him. When she sits down, he shifts slightly but does not run. He holds the toy tighter, his small fingers gripping it like it is the most important thing he owns. Naledi speaks softly, asking simple questions, but Tando stays silent. Even without words, he watches her closely, studying her face as if trying to decide whether she is safe. His silence does not bother her. She senses he just needs time. Over the next days, she keeps an eye on him, offering a smile whenever he looks her way. Sometimes he scoots a little closer when she reads stories to the group. Sometimes he stands behind her chair when she helps others paint. Every small gesture feels like a secret victory. She begins to understand that he communicates more with his eyes than with speech. When something scares him, he hides his face behind his boat. When he feels comfortable, he holds it loosely and lifts his gaze. Naledi wonders what his life was like before arriving at the center. There is a sadness in the way he clings to that toy, as if it carries all his memories. She never asks him about it. She just sits with him whenever he allows it, letting him feel her presence without pressure. The other children accept him, but it is Naledi he quietly approaches, drawn to her calm voice and warm patience. One afternoon, while she arranges crayons on the table, she feels a tiny tug on her shirt. She turns and sees Tando standing there, boat in hand, eyes shining with a softness she has not seen before. He still doesn't speak, but he slowly places the boat in her palm, offering it as a sign of trust. Naledi's heart melts. She knows this small act means more than words ever could. It is the beginning of something she never expected, a bond that will change them both. Naledi makes it a habit to sit with Tando every time she visits the center. She never forces him to talk or play. She just stays close, giving him a calm space where he feels safe. Day by day, she watches him slowly open up. At first, he only sits beside her without looking directly at her. Then he starts peeking at her with shy curiosity, the kind that makes her heart soften. As the days pass, something beautiful begins to happen. His lips curl into tiny smiles whenever she enters the room. They are small at first, quick and gentle, but they grow brighter each time she returns. Those smiles become the highlight of her visits. The staff notices the change too, whispering to each other with relief, surprised at how quickly Tando responds to her presence. Then one afternoon, when she is handing out crayons, Tando lets out a little laugh at something she says. It surprises everyone, even him. After that, he slowly begins to speak. Short words, soft sentences, sometimes pointing at things just to make her notice. His voice is fragile but filled with trust. When he talks to her, his eyes shine like he has finally found someone who understands him without asking anything in return. Soon he no longer waits quietly in the corner. As soon as she steps through the door, he breaks into a joyful run. Arms spread wide, boat still clutched in his hand. He bumps into her legs with excitement, smiling so brightly it feels like the whole room lights up. His laughter becomes a sound she looks forward to, a reminder that small acts of kindness can rebuild broken courage. One evening, before she leaves, Tando stands in front of her, shifting nervously from foot to foot. His toy boat rests gently against his chest. He looks up with those wide eyes she has grown to love, and in a tiny voice, barely louder than a whisper, he asks, "Are you coming back tomorrow?" The question hits her deeply. It is filled with hope, fear, and trust all at once. She realizes how much he depends on her now, how much her presence helps him feel safe. In that moment, she feels something warm and powerful spread inside her, knowing that this little boy has opened a new place in her heart she didn't even know was empty. Naledi fills out the adoption papers with steady hands, feeling both nervous and excited. She has thought about this decision for many nights, remembering every smile, every small laugh, every moment Tando reached for her. She knows in her heart that he belongs with her, and she is ready to give him a safe home filled with warmth. The center staff supports her and tells her she is doing something brave. For the first time in a long while, she feels her life moving in a direction that makes sense. But when the news reaches Aunt Moiza, everything changes. Without warning, Moiza bursts into Naledi's apartment, slamming the door behind her. Her face is tense, her voice sharp, and her words come fast like arrows. She cannot believe what she heard. She points her finger at Naledi and raises her voice so loudly that it echoes through the small space. She cannot understand why Naledi would choose such a path. She repeats the same old beliefs, insisting a woman cannot raise a child without a husband beside her. She treats Naledi's decision like a reckless mistake instead of an act of love. Naledi does not back down. She listens quietly but with unwavering eyes. She has been hurt by these opinions before, but this time she refuses to let them shake her. She thinks of Tando's tiny hands holding hers, his soft voice asking her to return, his trust slowly blooming like a fragile flower. She knows what she is doing is right, not because someone else approves, but because she finally understands what her heart wants. When her aunt pauses to catch her breath, Naledi speaks calmly, without anger. She tells her that love does not depend on having a partner. She explains that she feels stronger than she ever has, and she is ready to give a child a future filled with care. She says she may live alone, but her home will never be empty. She reminds Moiza that families come in many shapes, and what matters most is kindness, not tradition. Her aunt stands frozen, surprised by the confidence in Naledi's voice. For the first time, Naledi feels fully in control of her own life. She knows the road ahead may be challenging, but she also knows she is choosing it for the right reasons. She stands tall, refusing to let fear or judgment decide her future ever again. The agency carefully begins looking into every part of Naledi's life. They come to her apartment to check if it is safe and comfortable for a child. They ask questions about her job, her income, and her daily routine. They speak with people who know her to understand the kind of person she is. Naledi answers everything honestly, hoping each step brings her closer to giving Tando a real home. She feels nervous but steady, reminding herself why she started this journey. Every time she thinks of his shy smile, she feels strong again. But trouble appears from a place she never expected. Moiza, believing she is doing the right thing, goes behind Naledi's back and speaks to the officials. She tells them things that are hurtful and untrue, claiming Naledi cannot take care of a child, saying she is too emotional, too careless, too weak to be a parent. Her words confuse the agency and create doubt where there was none before. The process that was moving smoothly suddenly slows down. Meetings get postponed, extra questions appear, and Naledi begins to feel the pressure. When she learns what happened, her heart sinks. She cannot understand why her own aunt would try to block her path. She feels betrayed, frustrated, and tired, but she does not let these feelings break her spirit. She meets with the officials again and explains everything with calm honesty. She tells them about volunteering at the center, about how she and Tando built trust, and how she is fully prepared to raise him with care. She answers every new question with patience, even though it feels unfair. The agency sees her sincerity, her stability, and her commitment. They notice how she remains steady even when challenged. They begin to understand that her aunt's words come from fear, not truth. Slowly, the tension settles, and the process moves forward again. Naledi breathes easier, grateful that her efforts are being recognized. Through it all, she learns something important. Love is not proven by words, but by actions. And she is ready to fight for the little boy who already feels like part of her heart. One afternoon, Tando becomes weak and quiet, nothing like his usual bright self. His small body feels warm, and he leans into Naledi with tired eyes. The center staff decides to take him to the clinic, and without thinking twice, Naledi rushes there with them. She stays right beside him, holding his hand as the nurses check his temperature and give him medicine. He looks frightened, clutching her fingers tightly, and she bends down to whisper soft words to calm him. She strokes his forehead, wipes his tears, and stays close until his breathing becomes steady again. The clinic becomes quiet as evening turns into night. Most people leave, but Naledi refuses to go. She sits on the small chair next to his bed, keeping watch over him as he sleeps. Whenever he stirs or whimpers, she reaches out to comfort him, humming softly to soothe him back into rest. She forgets about her own tiredness and hunger. All she cares about is making sure he feels safe. The nurses observe her dedication with warm smiles, whispering to each other about how naturally she cares for him. Hours pass, and the social worker arrives to check on the situation. She stops at the doorway, watching silently as Naledi gently adjusts the blanket around Tando. The way she touches his hair, the way she leans close to listen to his breathing, the way she sits there with pure patience. Nothing looks forced. Nothing looks like an act. It is real, natural, and filled with love. The social worker sees everything clearly, understanding that what binds them is more than routine visits. It is a true connection. When morning comes, Tando wakes up and gives Naledi a weak smile, his hand still wrapped around hers. That small gesture says everything. The social worker walks over and speaks softly to Naledi, telling her that this kind of devotion cannot be taught. It comes from the heart. She assures her that the evaluation is complete, and that the decision is final. Naledi has proven herself not through words, but through her actions. Later that day, Naledi receives the official confirmation she has been waiting for. She is approved. She can finally become Tando's mother. The moment brings tears to her eyes, not from sadness but from deep relief and joy. She knows this is the beginning of a new chapter, one she is ready to embrace fully, with all the love she has. Naledi unlocks the door and steps inside with Tando holding her hand, his small fingers gripping tightly as if afraid to let go. The moment they enter, he stops and looks around with wide, bright eyes. Everything is new to him. He walks slowly at first, almost tiptoeing, taking in the quiet warmth of the little space. Then curiosity takes over. He reaches out to touch the soft rug in the living room, running his hands across it like it is the most magical thing he has ever felt. After that, he moves to the shelves, gently tapping the frames, smiling at the tiny decorations she never paid much attention to before. He opens the fridge just a crack and stares at the colorful magnets on the door. He touches each one with careful fingers, giggling softly at the shapes. Every corner of the apartment becomes an adventure. The cushions, the curtains, the small table near the window. Naledi watches him with a full heart, amazed at how something so ordinary can become so beautiful through his excitement. She kneels down and lets him explore freely, wanting him to feel that this place truly belongs to him now. After a few minutes, he turns around and looks at her with a face shining brighter than the sunlight coming through the window. He runs toward her with tiny footsteps and throws his arms around her waist. The hug is tight, filled with emotion far bigger than his small body. He presses his head against her chest, holding on as if she is the safest place in the world. Naledi wraps her arms around him, feeling a warmth that almost brings tears to her eyes. Then he lifts his face, his voice trembling but clear, and says softly, "Mom, thank you." The words strike her deeply. She has imagined this moment, dreamed of it, hoped for it, but hearing it spoken by the child she fought so hard for fills her with something she cannot describe. She holds him even closer, knowing this is the start of a life they will build together. A life filled with learning, laughter, healing, and love. She whispers back that he will never have to face anything alone again. And as he smiles up at her, she knows she has finally found the family she always needed. Days later, Moiza shows up without calling, pushing the door open with the same old impatience she always carries. She walks in expecting to find faults, ready to point out anything she thinks Naledi is doing wrong. Her mouth is already half open, prepared to lecture, but the moment she steps inside, the scene in front of her steals the words before they can leave her lips. Tando sits on the floor with crayons spread around him, humming softly as he draws pictures of boats and little houses. His face is bright and peaceful. When he notices Naledi walk by, he lifts his head and calls out, "Mama, look!" His voice is full of joy, as if the word has always belonged to him. Moiza freezes. She watches the way Naledi bends down and praises his drawing, how Tando giggles and leans against her, completely comfortable, completely loved. The apartment feels warm, filled with the kind of calm she never expected to see. The stiffness in Moiza's shoulders loosens a little. She stands there in silence, taking in the gentle bond between them. It is nothing like the chaotic picture she had imagined. It is softer, fuller, realer. She steps closer, quietly this time, and Tando looks up at her with innocent eyes. He gives her a shy smile before returning to his drawing. Something shifts in Moiza's chest. She notices the glow in Naledi's face, the confidence in her movements, the peace she carries now. She sees that this home is not broken or incomplete. It is whole in its own way. Naledi looks at her aunt, unsure what to expect, but she says nothing and waits. Moiza takes a slow breath, her gaze softening. She finally speaks, but her voice is not sharp anymore. It trembles slightly, as if she is letting go of something heavy. She admits she may have judged too quickly, held on to old ideas for too long, and allowed fear to guide her instead of love. She lowers her eyes and whispers an apology, something Naledi never thought she would hear. She confesses she was wrong about what true happiness should look like, wrong about what makes a family complete. She finally understands that love can grow in many forms, and that Naledi has created something beautiful. For the first time, both women stand in quiet understanding, united not by tradition, but by the little boy smiling up at them from the floor. Naledi takes a deep breath and looks at her aunt, feeling a calm strength she has never felt before. She nods slowly, letting Moiza know that she accepts her apology. But she also speaks firmly, her voice steady, carrying a lesson she has learned through every struggle and every challenge. Happiness is something you build, she says, not something someone gives you. Her words hang in the room, full of truth and clarity, and even Moiza can feel their weight. From that moment, a new chapter begins. The tension that once filled the apartment melts away, replaced by a quiet warmth. They start fresh, with respect for each other, and understanding that life does not always follow the rules they once believed were necessary. Conversations are softer now, more honest, and filled with curiosity instead of judgment. Naledi notices that she no longer worries about proving herself to anyone, that the approval she once longed for is no longer required. She thinks about her journey, the quiet mornings at the center, the nights she spent comforting Tando, the long conversations with officials, the patience she had to summon when others doubted her. Each step brought her closer to understanding something essential. Happiness is not something you wait for, nor something someone else can hand to you. It is created, nurtured, and grown through courage, commitment, and love. Looking down at Tando, she realizes that he is not just a part of her life, he is a part of her heart. His laughter fills the small apartment, turning it into a home. His tiny hands reaching for hers, his innocent questions, his quiet moments of wonder. All of these are the bricks of a life she has built with care. She smiles as he runs toward her with that familiar joy, whispering little secrets and calling her mama. Naledi understands now that she never truly needed anyone else's permission to be happy. She didn't find joy alone in the sense of solitude. She created it with Tando by her side. Every hug, every smile, every small adventure they share is a reminder that happiness is active, something she makes real each day. In that realization, she feels free, complete, and proud of the life she has built. And as Tando climbs onto her lap and laughs, she knows that this love, this bond, this home, is everything she has ever wanted and more. If you loved Naledi and Tando's journey, don't miss the next heartwarming African tale. Hit subscribe and join us for more amazing stories.